Welcome to the Staffing Playbook podcast, your go-to resource for navigating the dynamic world of staffing and HR. I'm your host, Stephen Farrell. Join me each week as we dive deep into the strategies, insights, and stories that shape the staffing industry. From the latest trends to expert interviews and practical tips, we'll equip you with the right tools and knowledge to succeed in the staffing industry. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, the Staffing Playbook is here to help you play your best game. Let's get started.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Staffing Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Farrell. I am joined by no other than Ian McLeod from Grow Up Leadership. This is episode 9. We are going to talk about sales and client management in challenging times. This will be mainly specific to those in the staffing industry, although a lot of these techniques will be applicable in just about any industry. Ian here is going to interview me a set of questions because I've been in sales for the better part of 19 years, and he's going to pick some knowledge out of my brain, what's left there, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So welcome, Ian. How you doing, my friend?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I'm excited to learn from you as you being the expert or you sharing your expertise with us. I certainly
That's a
have
better way of saying it. Sharing my expertise.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
an expert.
yeah, no, well, as long as your tenure has been with sales, I would consider you an expert.
Thank you.
Or certainly I would turn to you for your expertise and call you an expert in it. And yeah, I think all of us could benefit, like anybody in any industry can benefit from some simple, sales knowledge. We're all trying to persuade and sell people on something. So
Yeah.
I think this will be some good tips, good advice coming through.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, speaking of sales, I just got back from the biggest sales conference in the country,
Yeah.
Dreamforce, hosted by Salesforce last week.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
How was it?
Oh, dude, it was, besides, catching COVID because there's 210,000 people in the same area. That's been rough. I'm still recovering.
Yeah, man.
But man, it was impactful. The theme this year was all about AI, artificial intelligence, utilizing these large language models. And it was pretty clear to me, those that are not using AI every day in their business, especially from a sales standpoint, you are going to be left behind. You will be left in the dust because the amount of change that has happened just in the last few months, let alone the last 2 years, from these large language models, it's phenomenal. And really, it's going to help everyone be better at what they do, more efficient at what they do, have more effective outreach and follow up. It's one thing to take notes in a meeting and to reference them, right? It's another to have AI literally transcribe every meeting that you've ever been in and help you, identify things that you may have missed in your notes.
Right.
I mean, just it's remarkable. They say, Ian, you've heard this, right? AI is going to replace people.
I'm still on the fence about this one, and I think time will tell. But it definitely, the people who are, what the experts typically say is the people who are using AI will be the ones who will replace those that don't.
That's right.
To your point. So, yeah, I think AI in itself. I mean, this would be an interesting topic just for us to chat about on a future episode. But yeah, I mean, it's so important, and especially in almost any aspect of business, whether you're looking at human resources or certainly with data or research, any kind of operations and production, and then certainly with sales and marketing as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
certainly some jobs will be replaced that AI can effectively replace and do the job better. Like, I don't know, you're calling the customer service line of your cell phone provider. Yeah, that person probably might be replaced by AI because these agents can talk like you, can even have mannerisms and tonality and a personality, and can reference all of the source documents, all of your account history within milliseconds versus a real person. It's going to take them more time fumbling through all that information. But yeah, to your point, those who don't use AI might get replaced by AI, but those who leverage AI as a tool are just going to be that much more effective in what they do. It's just like, Microsoft Excel, when that became mainstream, if you had an office job and you didn't learn Excel, well, you're probably getting replaced by individuals that understand and use Excel.
right.
And that's just how it goes. And so it's similar with AI. It's just those who use it will be far ahead of their peers that don't.
Not to get too far off topic here, since we're talking sales, but um, there was a lot of concerns in certain industries with robots, right? And
That's right.
robots being
Especially
put
in
into
manufacturing.
manufacturing, especially.
Yeah.
And what they found actually was, and there was this idea that robots are just going to replace everybody. What happened was that for the most part, what robots did was just improve the process and make things more efficient, make things more effective, improve your quality and your productivity, both of those ends. And so basically, companies were able to do more, right? And so
That's right.
able to produce more at faster rates, but then they were able to sell more. They were able to provide better price points and that kind of thing. Probably the one area actually that they found that positions were lost, and there was a study that was done in Canada. I don't, it was maybe 2018, somewhere back in there, with this. And the one job that was really kind of shrunk, if you will, they actually, so for most of the manufacturing jobs, they actually had to hire more staff because they were just producing at such a higher rate.
That's right.
And so they could, and they there was a bit more like they didn't have to do all the lifting, heavy lifting, and all the welding or whatever it was. They just had a machine that did it for them. But the one job that was actually at risk, and probably will be at risk in the same regards with AI as it continues to kind of dominate, was middle managers, or like the frontline managers. Basically, what happened was, because these systems were so the quality of them and the productivity, and they could just keep going without having
Mhm.
to step away or any of that kind of stuff. Um, there just was less need or at least there was, managers could take on a larger team, so they could go from having a team of maybe 10, 15 people to a team of 25 or 50 people.
Oh,
They had all the data and all the information, and it was relatively simple for them to do their jobs in comparison. So that was the one area, at least this study in Canada showed, that there was actually a reduction in jobs in managers. So, you
you
know,
middle managers.
yeah, I know.
Well,
So I mean, like, that's a little bit scary for people like me in my profession, but
yeah,
I think it's still needed. It's just, to your point, we just all need to adjust and learn and change.
that's right. Well, speaking of adjusting, learning, and changing, that's really going to be part of our topic today. So we're talking about sales and client management in challenging times.
Yeah.
Last year, by my count, was probably the worst year in the staffing space when it comes to business growth. It was
Right.
it was a significant decline for just about every company. A few of those out there that did not decline obviously found a way to leverage the opportunity in a crisis. But last year was pretty discouraging for most salespeople and companies alike. And this year, we're coming up into fourth quarter now here in a few days. And this year, I'd have to say it was actually more challenging than last year. I read a study that it's 3 times harder this year to get half of the business you got last year. So think about that for a second. It's 3 times harder to get business this year, but it's not equal. It's three
That's
times harder to get half of the business.
Yikes, that's kind of bleak.
That's really challenging.
Ugh.
And I'm a sales leader myself, and I've experienced it. and currently experiencing it. And so I want to let my team know that's out there, and everyone else that's out there watching or listening in, that there is hope, that there are specific strategies that can help you mitigate the challenges, not completely avoid them, but to mitigate them and to find some niches that will help you continue to grow. And maybe you're not going to see the growth this year, but with some of the strategies I'd like to share today, it'll help you, build out that framework to be successful when the economy starts, moving in a positive direction. But again, there are some niches out there that'll allow you to grow, some things that you can do to help you grow, even in these challenging times. So I'm excited, Ian, for you to kind of hit me with some of these questions,
let's
because
dive in.
I've got a lot to share. And
yeah, absolutely. And I think this would be helpful to, especially given the kind of context of where we are, as from an economic kind of condition currently. I think it'd be great to hear some insight as far as what you would recommend and just what your company's even doing to overcome some of these challenges. So, considering current economic kind of conditions, what, and I know you kind of spoke to it's just challenging in general, but what's those big challenges with acquiring new clients in the staffing industry?
yeah, that's a great question. I've got four top of mind, but I want to first start with a quote from Winston Churchill. This is something I was just thinking about as I was preparing for today. So you've heard this before. I think everyone has, and I think it's great to start the conversation off with is: success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And so I think everyone is kind of feeling that failure right now. Not a lot of successes that are out there, although there's still plenty of successes there. But a lot of people feel that failure, and they're feeling like a failure. And so it's not about, failure is not fatal. It's not going to kill you. Quitting is when you quit, that's failing. But if you continue despite the failure, it's that courage to continue that counts. And so I want to just preface this with, you have to have that courage to continue, even if you feel like you're failing every single day. Have that courage to continue. So, Ian, you asked me what are the biggest challenges in acquiring new clients in the staffing industry specifically, and I think this applies to a lot of industries out there. I actually did a poll on LinkedIn and asked the same question, and there's four reasons. There's a reduction in hiring budgets. So there's 75% of companies that are serviced by the staffing industry. They have indicated that they've cut their hiring budgets, which leads to fewer opportunities. So that's not 25%. That's 75% of companies have cut their hiring budgets, which is huge, right? The second is increased competition. It's not that hard to start a staffing company. If you have the capital, you can start a staffing company today, and many do. And there's over 60% of staffing firms have reported a heightened competition and a shrinking pool of candidates. All that pool has changed a little bit, but the competition is fierce out there in just about every industry. Then there's client uncertainty. With the economic uncertainty, 42% of clients have delayed hiring decisions, resulting in a longer sales cycle. So, typically in my career, especially in staffing, the sales cycle is really narrow, right? Maybe 30 days, typically a week to 2 weeks. And once you had a meeting with the right people, the decision makers, it'd be pretty quick from that point. But because of the economic uncertainties, customers are delaying their hiring decisions, and the sales cycle's gone from 30 days at the longest to 90 days at best if you're lucky. And that's my fourth point with that client uncertainty is the longer sales cycle. There's a slow decision-making process that prolongs getting clients onboarded. And so really those are the four key challenges that I see. And based on my poll, it seems like the client uncertainty and the reduced hiring budgets have been probably the top two in those four.
Wow. Well, considering those challenges, what can staffing firms do to adapt their sales strategies to overcome these challenges, or what can they do to kind of
It's a really good
manage
question.
these challenges?
Yeah, Albert Einstein said it best: in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of difficulty going around, and so you have to ask yourself, do you want to be the defense attorney of your challenges, right? Do you want to
Mm-hmm.
defend them, take it all the way to court? These are my challenges, I'm sticking to it. Do you want to be that, or do you want to find the opportunity, as Albert Einstein alluded to?
Right.
In difficulty there is opportunity. So how do we find those? So adapting your sales strategies to overcome these challenges. I'm going to be transparent. I'm not afraid of people using my, some of my strategies. It's
Nice.
because it's out there. It's in just about any article you can find on the topic, any book. It's not that complicated. It's the execution that matters.
Right.
But I think number one is emphasizing relationship building. You
Mm-hmm.
have to nurture relationships. We're in a people business, a relationship business. If you want to help your business grow, you have to focus on relationship building. Don't focus on getting the sale. There's a gentleman on here I recently followed on LinkedIn. His name's Tony. He's a new sales rep, and he live streams all of his calls. He posts every day about his challenges. He's from Ireland. Super entertaining, super engaging, but every day he's talking about how many dials that he's done. Like, I've done 100 dials today. I've done 700 this week, and it's all a numbers game. And I want to shake him and go, look, Tony, it's not a numbers game. Like, maybe count how many relationships you have built in the last year or in the last month. Let that be your first, lever for measurement of how successful your sales is going to be, or it has been. It's relationships. It's people that you're dealing with. People do business with those with they don't do them with companies. They do business is done with people they know, like, and trust. So if you're calling 100 people a day, do you really think you're going to do any relationship building there? Or are they going to know, like, and trust you? No, it's not going to happen.
Right.
So that's number one, right? And I think, Ian, and throughout your career and the company you've founded, I think you agree with me that relationship building is number one.
And I will say it's interesting. I'm curious to hear the next kind of strategies you would take. But I feel like the strategies that are recommended are they're probably universal to your point. They're kind of, they're out there. They're things that people should be doing. What's fascinating is a lot of these same strategies that you would use for sales are oftentimes you could apply some of the same concepts to management, people management, leadership, these kind of things that I talk about quite a bit.
Sure can.
So I'll get into that more, but I love to continue to hear your strategies.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's definite overlap in terms of the techniques and strategies that you would use for sales, and applying those to just almost everyday life, if not certainly management and leadership.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's relationship building is a broad term, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's very specific strategies on how to build relationships.
Sure.
There's very specific, questions that you ask. If you go into a discovery meeting with a prospect, and you start playing what I call ping pong. So
Mm-hmm.
this is your normal underdeveloped sales rep. Ian, I ask you a question about a challenge you're having, and you tell me all about what's going on in that challenge and how it's affecting your business. So I hit the ping pong to you, right? And then you share everything. You hit the ping pong back to me, and I immediately offer a solution. It's like, oh, you have a turnover problem? Well, guess what? 95% of my associates that I place on assignment show up on their first day, and
Nice.
75% stay, for the duration of their assignment. Well, if I'm going to play this ping pong game with you back and forth, I'm never having the opportunity to build a true relationship with you. Right now, I'm making it transactional. You
Right.
state a problem, I state a solution. Ping pong, back and forth. You're never going to get anywhere, especially in these challenging times with a customer, if you're going to play ping pong. That's not relationship building.
Yeah.
So that's number one. And there's very specific strategies there. And it starts with don't play the ping pong game. of problem solution. The second one, this is obvious, but you have to demonstrate value. So after you've spent 85% of your discovery meeting really getting to know the prospect, helping understand their problems, letting them share what they've done to address the problems or what they haven't done. What does their future state look like? How long can they go without solving this problem, right? Sometimes you have an active pain or you have a latent pain. So sometimes your prospect just doesn't know they have a pain that's affecting their business until you ask the right questions and get them to, really to think about the problems that they're facing and their future state, their future goals, and how they're not going to hit their future goals because of their current state. And so once you've gotten past that point, once you've built that relationship, now you have to demonstrate value, right? The last 15% of your meeting is now, hey, here's all the problems you shared with me, and here's the one or two that are affecting you the most that you have told me you want to change, and you want to change in X amount of time frame. Here's now how I can help you. I love when customers ask me, like, what makes you so different, Stephen? What does your firm do differently from the others? And I think to myself, when I get that question asked, I failed. That question should not be asked in a discovery meeting. If I've asked the proper questions, if I've taken the time to get to know the prospect, get to know their challenges, and they're likely not going to ask what sets you apart because of that value building during the conversation. They already see you and help them with finding a solution to their challenges. And so you have to demonstrate that value, but you have to do it through your questioning, through your conversation, relationship building. And once you've done that, my team has seen a 30% increase in their conversion rates when they've clearly started with the relationship building and then demonstrated the value at the end, not in the beginning and not throughout. So that'd be the second one, is demonstrating value.
Right.
The third one is being flexible, right? Having flexible, customized solutions. It's not a one size fits all. And this can be in just about every business that you're part of. You have your standard solutions, but problems are not standard from one client to the next. There are some that are pretty similar, but they're going to be very unique in each customer that you interact with. And so you have to be flexible, offer a customized solution that can, really improve their business, their satisfaction. And, according to Gallup, there was a poll done back in 2022. Those agencies that offered flexible solutions improved their client satisfaction by like 15 or 20%. And so there's clear data that also showcases that you have to be flexible in offering a solution to your customer. I think and then the last one, people know this, but you'd be surprised in how many people actually don't do this. This is leveraging current customers, their testimonials, getting them on the phone with a prospect and letting them share their story, their experience with your firm. Again, I mentioned this earlier, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so what a better way of showcasing that is bringing a current customer that knows, likes, and trusts you. That's a powerful testimony that you can share with your prospect that'll help them kind of see their future state through the lens of one of your customers that had the same challenge, and we help them overcome those challenges.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, like, I Yelp or look at Google reviews for everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't even imagine considering purchasing almost anything nowadays without looking at reviews or trying to get information from other people's experience.
Right.
So,
yeah, when you're on, like,
brilliant.
If your household's anything like mine, you have an Amazon package show up at least once a day on your doorstep.
Not that many times, but it's often.
Well, you're lucky. Sometimes it's 3 times a day for me. So, when I'm looking at product on Amazon, I'm not only just looking at the price, right? I'm looking at the reviews. How many, I'm looking at how this one has 5,000 reviews that are 4 stars and up. And then this similar product has 10 reviews, 3 stars and up. Yeah, this one over here is not getting my attention anymore.
Yeah, so,
It's
So
powerful.
it really is. So again, strategies are build those relationships, demonstrate or create some showcase your value, be
Right.
flexible though as far as in your product or your services or your solutions, and then in some way leverage testimonials are the core strategies to really kind of help in terms of not only for any staffing firms but really anyone in sales. And I would
Right.
again probably even argue, from a leadership or management standpoint, if you're, I mean, it's so important to, even if you're internally trying to sell, concepts or ideas or goals to your employees, you are still trying to take along a lot of these kind of aspects. You need to be building rapport with your staff. You want to demonstrate some sort of value in terms of the goals that we're achieving. What's the purpose, the why behind that Simon Sinek talks about. Being flexible and open though, and then certainly bringing in information about other people's success, and how other people have been other employees or what have you who've been successful with implementing these, tactics to be, to meet these performance goals or whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
again, yeah, brilliant stuff, but I feel like it's very universal.
It's universal, and it applies to, when it comes to B2B, it applies to, something that a transaction that could be as small as $100 a month to a $10 million contract, right? The strategy, these core strategies do not change. There's nothing more important than relationship building, even with a $100 transaction or a $10 million transaction. You still have to build that relationship. You still
Mm,
have to demonstrate value. You still have to be flexible, and you have to showcase that others who know, like, and trust you have gotten, the same results that you're looking to get. And so, yes, there's very specific questions and processes that flow through for
mhm.
these four core elements. But that's something you can work through and figure out. But you can't miss either one of these four if you want to be successful in overcoming this very challenging market. You have to hit these four, and you've got to execute on them very well. Charles Darwin, I remember there's a quote, whether you like him or not, it's not the
Yeah.
strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones that are most responsive to change. So we are in a very challenging time, a lot of changes to our economy, a lot of changes to our business. If you're not willing to adapt, if you're not willing to respond to that change, you will be left behind.
Yeah, and I think that is a widely accepted concept amongst all experts in terms of business and management, that the any industry you're in is gonna just the world is gonna continue to change, and either you adapt or you fail. I mean, it's just gonna constantly change. And you look at even some of the big companies that, throughout history, that you look back in business, whether it be again a Blockbuster or a Polaroid or any Circuit City or these kind of things, they didn't adapt. They didn't change when the writing was kind of on the wall,
Yeah.
and they failed. So I think
You
that's
remember you
kind of,
remember Kmart and Circuit City, like those were the places to go, right?
yeah. I mean, and Circuit City made some bad decisions about, from staffing standpoint, and kind of prioritizing, short term profits. But I mean, yeah, you look at like a Blockbuster, and they had an opportunity to purchase Netflix, and they were like, nah, or I don't know if you have, but I used to love, there was Tower Records. There was a Tower Records here in
Ah,
Austin.
yeah.
Loved Tower Records. It was the best, always going hanging out there. But they didn't believe that people wanted, the digital kind of media, and so they thought they were immune to this kind of stuff. And yeah, the reality is that change is going to happen, and either you be flexible and adapt to it, or you don't. But if you
Or you
don't, you're
don't.
probably going to hang your head up and give up, because it's inevitable.
Look, you're talking to a guy, his first management job was Hollywood Video.
Nice.
So I was there right at the end when the market shifted. in 2008, 2009, you had a lot of people, believe that the reason Blockbuster and Hollywood and those movie stores went out because of the digital transition. Well, yes and no. Yes, there was digital transformation and they got left behind. But the financial crisis, these banks would not carry the banknote on these. These companies were over $2 billion in debt, each of them. And no one wanted to carry that banknote. And so they were not, preparing for this digital change, right? They're still selling and renting physical DVDs and Blu-rays. And so, Reed Hastings, founder of Netflix, that's his name, right? Reed Hastings.
I think so.
I may have got that wrong. It's a Hastings. He saw the shift and he was part of influencing that shift. And so when these companies, these multi-billion-dollar companies, went belly up overnight, he was right there, ready for all those customers to move over, and they were successful. So he made the change before the change was forced upon everybody, and reaped the benefits.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, from if you look at kind of the hindsight after the fact, it's easy to kind of break it apart and be like, well, you should have done this. They actually call it hindsight bias, where you have this bias towards the idea that, oh, we all knew the market was going to crash, or we all knew this was going to happen. Reality is we don't necessarily know, but we need to be in a position to be prepared for anything that might happen, and adjust and change, when there's that opportunity. And I think the people that do, whether they come up with a new business or they shift enough, and I mean, so there's been plenty of other companies who've continued to be successful because they were smart enough to make those shifts and changes and adjust when the writing was out there.
Yeah.
So diving deeper though, and you kind of talked about this a bit, certainly with the relationship building, but when thinking about sales and kind of client management, because I think that's a unique aspect of this as well, and the work that you're doing, what role does that kind of client management play in keeping or retaining and even growing business, especially, considering the ongoing changes that we're all experiencing and the challenging kind of economic times that you've kind of laid out?
Yeah, it's a big deal. I was reading a survey that was done among tens of thousands of staffing firms. I can't remember the exact number. I believe this was done by Bullhorn, but they asked them what is their sales strategy to grow in 2024, and 60% of them indicated that they were going to go after new business. Right? They were going to kind of forget about their current business and move to getting new clients. And I thought that was pretty shocking, given the climate. If you've got loyalty, if you've got loyal customers, why ignore these customers that are keeping the lights on to go and get new business? You've got to love on your current customers. Yes, you need to go get new business. You have to grow, but you cannot forget about your core business, the customers that are there in-house, they love you, they appreciate your service, and they're loyal customers. And so I think when it comes to retaining and growing business through challenging economic times, you have to love on your current customers, right? Repeat customers account for 70% of staffing firms' revenue. I'm going to say that again. Repeat customers account for 70% of staffing firms' revenue. And so that's why it was so surprising to hear that 60% of staffing firms were going to kind of stop focusing on current customers and go after new business. And so that, to me, that's number one. Take care of the customers that you have and enhance those relationships.
Right.
Don't take them for granted. Take them out to lunch, have anniversary gifts and dinners, and be more than just a commodity in their business. Be a true partner in their employment strategy. And with that comes number two. If you're doing that, you're going to be able to identify additional opportunities to help that customer within their business. Maybe there's a turnover problem in their facility, and you can do some retention training with their supervisors, right? You can identify the key issues that are happening in the building. And then you can partner with your clients and help them improve on keeping the people that they have happy, productive, and growing. And so that's the second one, is you want to identify opportunities to grow within those same accounts that you have. The third one is you have to improve your service delivery. You need to get regular client feedback about how you're doing, how the associates are doing that you've placed out there. Let's get at the same table together and find out how we can improve our service. And this is not just a once a year thing. This is a weekly thing. This can be a monthly thing or a quarterly thing. The more often you do it, the quicker you can respond to the challenges at hand where you might have some service failures. And so get that regular feedback, ask for it, and then do something about it. That's a big one. So that's number 3. Number 4 is strengthening reputation. So you have to have a positive, reputation within your own firm. And that goes back to improving your service delivery, enhancing client loyalty, but also how are you treating the associates coming through your door? Do you roll out the red carpet, or do you do what you accuse your clients of doing and treating them like a number, right? We've all heard that. You have 500 people in the building and they all feel like they're just a number. And then we might do the same thing with the people coming through our front doors. And so you've got to treat them like a person. You've got to be empathetic. You've got to help them progress in their career. And so, if you strengthen your reputation in the community, among your clients, among your associates, you're going to improve the amount of business that you get. Customers that you don't service presently are going to hear about how well you treat your clients, how well you treat your associates, how well you treat your colleagues, if you're doing it right. And they're going to want that. They're going to want that in their own building, and they're going to reach out to you. I've seen this countless times where I've had a prospective customer call me and go, "Hey, I've read your thousands of 5-star reviews on Google from your associates. You treat them the way we would treat our people, and we want to know what you're doing, and we want to do business with you."
Nice. It's interesting you share this, because there's and I don't know, how many folks are aware of the difference in customer service versus customer experience. But either way, the focus oftentimes, and when they talk about, especially companies who focus on customer experience and improving that, it's just so interesting, the overlap here, because like, to your point, the research continues to show it's so much more difficult to get a new customer in comparison to just retaining your current customers. There's so much more effort that you need to put into acquiring new customers. So it's so much better to, again, create that loyalty, or in a lot of times it's just mitigating disloyalty. Like, people will be loyal oftentimes to a company or to a business until for some reason they're not, right? They have a bad experience and that pushes them away. But otherwise, they might be loyal to that company for indefinitely. You see this with, people who are, fans of a certain, model or, make of a car, or
Apple
something like
versus
that.
Android, right? You have these raving
Absolutely.
fans on either side.
And it's not so much that Apple or one of the Android companies did something to acquire them. It's just that they made that purchase for whatever reason and they enjoyed it. And until they have a really negative experience, they're going to typically stick with that. So a lot of it's about mitigating that disloyalty to make all the difference. So I know we certainly, in the customer service kind of world, we talk about that quite a bit, the importance of keeping that client loyalty. So that's fascinating. Again, from a sales point, I think it's applicable, but just across business in general. Same thing even goes internally with, employees. People are typically, they're dedicated to their job until they have a negative experience with their manager or something like that. All of a sudden that sours things, and then that's when they lose them. And then you're, again, spending all this effort to acquire a new employee to fill in that spot. So
you're 100% right.
So thinking about client, effective client management practices, that kind of thing. What are some practices that for client management that staffing firms or just really anybody, because again, this feels very universal, what should they be implementing? What should they be doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll keep this one real simple because it's a repeat of what I've already shared. Regular communication.
Mm-hmm.
If a staffing firm maintains consistent client updates, they have a 25% higher retention rate. Customers that have done business with you before are 92% more likely to do business with you again than with a new provider. And so that regular communication is key in you being successful and in maintaining the business that you have and growing on top of that. Personalized service. You have to have that tailored solutions that fit that individual specific client needs, right? And sometimes it takes some creativity. Like I had to shuttle in 250 people from another state that was very specific for a client that had a need that could not be met with the current economic conditions and the market that they were competing in. We just couldn't get the people from the local market. So we had to tailor a solution to bus 250 people in from another state that would meet their needs. You have to be a really good problem solver. You have to address the issues before they escalate. This can really reduce your client turnover, so to speak, if you're being proactive in addressing issues before they escalate. And that's a big deal. Sometimes, I hear it countless times when I'm visiting prospects or customers that are dealing with other firms. And the number one issue is that I get from them when it comes to a service issue from other providers is when there's a problem, they go quiet. They don't address it. They just think that it'll be, overlooked or forgotten about. And really, I love hearing that because it's like, I know you're going to sign today because communication's number one. And if you're not proactively addressing issues before they escalate, I mean, you're done.
Yeah.
And then the last one is soliciting feedback. Like I mentioned, you have to regularly solicit feedback and then take action on those. The firms that take action on feedback outperform those that don't by 70%.
Wow.
And I want people to remember when it comes to effective client management, there's this word that always comes to mind, and that's empathy. So, Gandhi, I remember, one of his famous quotes is the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. You have to lose yourself in the service of your clients. It's not about you anymore. It's about them. I mean, that's why they hired you, to take care of their challenges, their employment strategy. And so you've got to lose yourself in the service of your clients because most people don't. And so that's how you create that loyalty for years on end. When you try to calculate the lifetime value of a customer, it's real easy to, if it's transactional, it's real easy to come up with that number. But if you've lost yourself in the service of them and you're taking care of their needs, you're being proactive, man, that lifetime value truly is a lifetime value.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so again, thinking of client management, just to hit those again. So routine, regular kind of communication, as far as practices that you should be putting in. Because again, I think at the core, what you're talking about is building these relationships. Solid relationships are so important. Having that kind of personalized service, being proactive in some way about solving those problems. So when an issue does arise, you are actually addressing it in a timely manner and trying to, and not just ignoring it. And then taking that a step further and actively asking for feedback and kind of getting that honest dialogue going about how you're performing. So
You're a good student.
I think again, these are some applicable things to almost any kind of aspect of business or just life in general. I mean, this is, it's important to build relationships in really whatever you're doing. And so I think these are some good, excellent techniques to try to accomplish that. So I know we're getting closer to the end. Maybe one last question. Feel good?
Go ahead.
So, and you touched on this a little bit. You talked a little bit about niche markets, kind of specialized industries, that kind of thing. How important is it, what's the benefit of focusing on niche markets or specialized industries during this kind of especially during this economic downturn?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a hard question. Um, so look, businesses change, right? COVID changed, it kind of exposed some of the problems with staffing. I'm going to speak specifically to the staffing industry right now. Staffing industry has a lot of problems, always has. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it's really easy to get into if you have the capital. And, for a lot of people, it's just a big payday, right? And so when COVID hit, you had this mass, layoff when there was all the shutdowns, but people were still had money in their pocket. And so they were still consuming, they were still purchasing. And it created this enormous demand that for product that when everyone's at home ordering, there's no one in the factory building the widgets that you just ordered. And
Yeah.
so, after this massive, exodus of sending everybody home, now you have this callback of the labor. We've got to get you guys back. And not only do I need my 100 that I laid off, I now need to triple that. I need 200 or 300 people just to meet up with the demand. And so there was this call for labor, and all the companies called everyone back, and this is a great time to be in staffing, because you went from normally having a couple hundred openings within a large territory to now you have a couple thousand, and there's just not enough people to fill those roles. Well, once all of that kind of went away, when the money went away, and then you have the Fed increasing the interest rates, all of a sudden we've entered some sort of recessionary period, whatever you want to call it, and consumer spending dropped, right? And consumer debt went up, incomes went down, and unemployment went up. And so it's just it's been a very challenging time for everybody, regardless of what industry that you're in. It's just been an economic downturn, and whatever you want to call that downturn, whether it's a recession or an inflationary period, it's been an economic downturn. And so with that, you as an agency or as a business owner, you have to recognize that there are niche markets that are being negatively. There's ones that are negatively affected by it, but there's also ones that are growing. And a lot of companies went out of business. A lot of staffing firms went out of business. A lot of people got laid off. And so you have to go back to identify where is the growth happening, where is the most opportunity. And if you can find a niche within this industry, it's likely you're going to have 50% less competitors. It's just because people are not focusing on these niches, or they've gone out of business. And so there is a reduction of competition, which helps people like myself go and find the right business. So that's one, is reduced competition. It is a highly competitive market, but there are less competitors. You also have to be an expert, right? You have to be the expert in what you do in your niche. So say like you have a construction staffing division, you have to be the best at finding the right people and servicing your customers better than anybody else, right? Or if you're in a CDL division, or if you're in the light industrial space, or the customer service, or professional placement, whatever industry that you're in staffing, if you can really focus in, not be someone that can do all of it. The more you're an expert of, the less you're actually good at something. I can't remember the exact quote, but you have to really isolate what you're good at and chase that. I'll share a small story. In the firm that I'm with, we did everything, right? We could do everything. And we decided we were going to niche it down to just 3 industries and focus on the top 3 that we're the best at. And we're going to forget about all the 10 others that we dabbled in, because that was just a distraction. We weren't very good at execution. It's like, these are the 3 we're really good at that we can execute and even get better. And we've been much more successful at that strategy. So if you're dabbling in every niche, you're not a specialty in any one of them. Think about when you hire a wedding photographer. Are you going to hire someone you go and look on their website and they do pet photography, they do commercial photography, they do weddings, they do events? Like, you're not looking for someone that does it all. You're going to want the one that just does wedding photography, right? You want the best for the most special day of your life. And so think about that in your staffing agency. What are you really good at? What niche are you good at? Be the best at that niche and don't worry about the rest, right? Yes, you could do others, but focus on the niches that you're good at.
Jack of all trades,
And,
master of none.
yeah,
Jack of all trades, master of none is the
that's
phrase
the
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
So Ralph Emerson, he said, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail, right?
Nice.
You find that niche that you're most passionate about, that you have the most expertise, and go down that path that others are not going down. They're just dabbling. They're just kind of walking down it and turning around and going around the next path. Go down the path that you're most expertise at. So I know we kind of went over on time there, but I really want to get some of your feedback.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is excellent. I think, again, it speaks to, one of the biggest things within sales, and whether that be in the staffing industry or in really any industry. And I think, again, in any aspect of business, is relationship building is so important. Building that kind of brand loyalty, in a sense, whether it be brand loyalty with yourself or with your company or your department or your team or what have you, focusing on that client or that customer or that employee that you're supporting or whoever it is. What are their challenges, and how do you bring value to that, right? How do you help improve that? And I think those are excellent aspects to sales, and then, again, just to business in general. I one of the famous kind of sales, as far as concepts that I think that everybody's probably heard from, whether you've watched a movie like Glenn Ross or Wolf on Wall Street or Boiler Room. The concept of always be closing. And I will say, I know it's kind of a cliche thing. It's cliche, but at the same time, one of the things that I used to, so when I would support folks who were kind of team leaders or supervisors, one of the things I would try to get them to think about, though, is always be closing, in terms of when you're having a conversation, what are you, you're trying to, it's move towards that outcome, that larger goal, and move that conversation to that. So I think there's still some value to that. It doesn't mean that you're always trying to just close somebody on a sale, but that you don't get bogged down too often in all the reasons not to, the obstacles, the barriers, the challenges, and that kind of stuff, and actually help somebody then, and we refer to it more from a coaching standpoint, but coaching them to what are their options and what's their way forward and how do you move this forward. And, whether, again, you're thinking from a sales standpoint, how do you help this person move towards, whatever goals they're trying to achieve, whether that be you selling them a product or, helping them figure out that next step. And maybe it's not now, and maybe it's not with you, but I think people will still appreciate you moving that conversation forward to always be closing, in a sense. So, speaking of closing, I know we're probably at time.
I want to add a note to that, because I hate that. I hate that term. I hate it. And I think most sales reps hear it, they just roll their eyes.
Do they? It's so cliche, right?
It's so cliche because of some of those movies you reference, because that's your aggressive, sales tactics. And so I've actually changed it to ABL instead of ABC. Is always be listening, right?
Oh, nice.
Because you can't close somebody if you're not being a good listener, right? If you're not truly understanding their challenges and helping them diagnose it, and to come up with a solution together, and you're helping them to help them. Yes, it's transactional in the sense that you're going to get paid for your services, but it's more than that. If you can be a true partner in their employment strategy, in their business, to help them be successful, you can make them look like a hero. They're going to think they closed you, right? They're going to say, I was closing him, I was closing Ian.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's a good thing. You want your clients to be the hero in the story, because they chose you. They chose you. It was their decision, no one else's. You didn't force them. You didn't strong arm them into into that decision. They made that consciously because they know, like, and trust you, and they believe that what you can do for them is going to solve their problem, so they can go home to their family and go, I won today at work, right?
Yeah.
It was because of me, I chose the right partner. And so one last thing I want to leave the group with is for sales reps out there that are afraid to make cold calls. Ian, are you afraid to make cold calls?
I think I was some time ago, but not anymore. No. I mean, I'll do it, but yes. I mean, yes, no, maybe depends on what I'm selling.
It's an uncomfortable thing, calling a stranger, right?
It's weird.
Whether it's in person or over the phone, but that is the least thing you should worry about if you're a sales professional, is a cold call. If you truly believe in what you do, if you truly believe in trying to find the core challenges that your customer is facing and seeing if you can help them, and also recognizing when you can't help them and to not make the sell. Once you have that inner core belief that you can help people and you're going to do everything you can to find their challenges and to team up with them on a solution, once you get to that point, the cold call is nothing. That is the least important thing you have to worry about, because the real work is diagnosing the challenge and coming up with a solution. That's the hard part.
Right.
And so if you're afraid of making cold calls, I challenge you to find your why in what you do and how you truly serve your customers. Once you find that, cold calls they're fun in a sense that you're making enough calls to find the person that has those pain points, whether it's active or latent. And it's really fun to get to that point in the conversation. And so I love making cold calls, because like if I can make 10 cold calls and have 7 really good conversations versus making 1,000 phone calls and having 7 really good conversations,
right,
I feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives. Right. And so for salespeople out there, find your why. Don't be afraid to pick up that phone because you truly know if you find the right person that has a need, you're going to help them. And that's truly what matters.
Awesome. Always be listening.
Always be listening. ABL.
That's great, man. Great conversation. I appreciate you sharing this stuff. I think this helps quite a bit for me. And I'm also happy to see that a lot of my thoughts on, sales and the importance of relationship building align with what an expert would be sharing. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
Man, it's great having you on here. It's a lot of fun. You had some great questions, and we will have Ian back. He's going to be a regular. He's got the brains of the team here. So appreciate you, Ian.
Yeah, man. I appreciate being on. It's always good conversation. I feel like there's plenty of other topics. Again, AI, customer experience. We could go in all kinds of different directions. There's a lot to cover. So
that's right.
Let me know. I'll be aboard whenever you need me.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a fantastic weekend.
Bye, y'all. Take care.
6 months ago, I get a call from Steve Farrell, who wants to talk about partnering with Yes for our labor needs. It would
change your approach to staffing.
I told him I've already used multiple agencies and have had headaches with each one. So my approach to staffing is just fine.
With multiple agencies, we thought we had our staffing needs covered.
Hey, the agency employees didn't show up, so we're short on staff again. I'm sorry.
Focus. Curses. Fetch.
Hey, an agency sent an employee.
Do you have production experience?
I've produced YouTube videos. I'm hungry. When's my first break?
This is not sustainable. If you want happy customers and a healthy business, something's got to change. So yes, we tried Yes.